All right, welcome everyone to our podcast today. Our topic is Rethinking Operational Efficiency, a tech-focused approach to healthcare management. My name is David Levine with HealthTech Solutions. I'm hosting today, and I want to introduce our guest, Ayla. So Ayla, I'd like to turn the floor over to you to introduce yourself and provide some background.
Thank you, David, for your invitation, and I am happy to be here. And thank you for your time. My name is Ayla Annac, as David mentioned. I am the CEO, co-founder, and president of a biotech organization. It's a small scale, is InvivoSciences, and we are here to actually provide to the community of the pharmaceutical companies and industry with a therapy for a precision therapy for heart failure based on our technology platform, which enables the precision medicine discovery and also stratification of patient groups so that the part of the medication that is coming alive will match with the right populations in the heart failure and cardiometabolic disease field.
Thank you for that background. I find that very insightful. I find that interesting. I hope others do as well. So I wanted to start out by asking, in relation to today's topic, in healthcare management, efficiency can mean so many different things to different people and organizations. But from your perspective, what role does technology play in rethinking and improving operational efficiency today?
I think especially AI, specific to AI, will increase the productivity in each organizations, and they will have to look into internal operations, and that will be a very instrumental what can be cut down in terms of time and cost, and how can be rethink about how to use the AI to improve the productivity. So that will be each organization's goal, not only healthcare, but I think the total industry. But I just wanted to, my focus or our team focus is from the heart failure area, and of course the patient records. And so how to think about what is available already that is coming from directly from patients, and how to help the industry to think about the precision medicine implementation to heart failure area, which is the number one killer, and its implementation more cost effectiveness will come to the clinical trial through the patient enrichment. What I mean with that is currently one drug fits all the populations in the heart failure concept is not precision medicine. If there are 5 or 6 drugs available, or maybe let's see even 7 or 10 drugs available, they are not geared upon specific subpopulations for the heart failure, and that makes the clinical trials fail, and they are very expensive if they fail in the phase 3 of the clinical trial evolution, and that makes the investors shy away. In the last 10 to 15 years, only up to 3 or 4% of the investment went into the innovation in the heart failure, which is number one killer in the worldwide right now. And one of the other part that last 15 years, the increase in the heart failure rate switch from the population of a very old to the under 45, 609%, and in the United States only. So this is an alarming rate. This will increase the cost of healthcare. This will increase the cost of how we do the drug development, unless we start focusing and bringing precision medicine for the subpopulations by age, by gender, and by the disease nature. And this can be done effectively through AI and through rethinking the clinical trials and doing utilization of the technology platform like ours available, and implementation into cost-effective clinical trials for heart failure and cardiometabolic diseases. That means you can do smaller clinical trials like cancer field does, and also get a precise medication for that group of individual, and that is the cost effectiveness, and that is the gift of AI and implementation on a humankind, and that is how we can actually utilize the technology and increase the cost effectiveness. Very important cost, because it's very, very expensive. One drug is $1.6 billion to bring out, and clinical trials are the most expensive for the heart failure. You don't want to fail in the phase 3 all the time, and that is what the industry can benefit, and patients will have an option in the heart failure area. rather than just taking available drugs, which is not curing anything currently.
Amazing. So I just want to make sure, from my understanding and for anyone else, it sounds like you're basically able to make a more, for lack of a better word, a personalized approach for a smaller subset of group of the population versus a more larger generic setup, correct?
Exactly, and AI can do that because current technologies enables it's a stem cell technologies. We can take your blood or urine sample and create your heart tissue outside of your body, and it is available. This technology has been utilized and validated, and you can create a disease model, and that disease model could be utilized for drug discovery. And when you do so, how to actually get AI in the perspective, AI helps you to bring the subpopulations of people that will match the drug that they need. And because the human model is already available now, you don't need to also use an animal model only, because your heart failure disease model is going to be clearly available, and your patient records are available. So AI can match them and create the databases to be able to do the stratification of the patient populations, which is not happening at this moment for heart failure and cardiometabolic diseases. And because it is not happening, but it is very much happening in the cancer field. So what is not happening in the heart area, it is very evolved in the cancer field. And the reason is that they can take biopsies and they can match the drugs to the patient's biopsy and then change the drug accordingly or develop the drug accordingly. And this same thing can be done with the already enabled technologies like we have, and with the AI's implementation, also clinical trials can be smaller and cheaper for heart failure and cardiometabolic diseases. So I think this is the concept that in the future will be implemented, but I am hoping that this will be near future because we have been doing it since 2001, and we are hoping that the whole industry will be able to adopt this and more drugs will come. That means the patients who have been waiting with the heart failure will win. And we don't want younger populations like below 45 will have a heart failure. This is a huge economic cost. And hospitalization is the highest in the area of disease we are working in, heart failure, preserved ejection fraction. Very expensive because the highest hospitalization rate on this population, heart failure, preserved ejection fraction happens. And they really need a more innovation for heart failure drug section, and we are working to make that happen. And it is long work, but I lost my own father, and that is why I think I am more passionate to see this happening, so that others will not lose their loved ones in the future.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing. So I kind of want to ask, and I think we've kind of gotten into this a little bit, but I know y'all have been recognized for your focus on precision medicine as we've been talking, particularly in the heart failure and the cardiometabolic diseases. Is there anything you'd like to add in how your work is helping providers and patients differently compared to the traditional approaches?
Yeah, I think I touched base before, but currently clinical trials are geared upon one drug for entire populations global. And so that approach has been very risky for the failing, because phase 3 clinical trials almost last 15 years, all heart failure and cardiometabolic drug trials, when they failed in the phase 3, it's the very expensive, most expensive phase to fail. It makes the investors not to want to invest where the most need is there. Number one killing currently is not cancer, it is heart failure area. And the solutions is there in terms of the technologies, but still drug development is very expensive. One drug costed $1.6 billion to develop, so the pharmaceutical sector has lots of burden to bring lots of drugs, but they want profitability, of course. But in the cancer field, this is really evolved. There are so many drugs for so many different smaller sections of the cancer populations. And what is the technology enabling right now? To be able to create your heart tissue outside, which is through the stem cells, blood, urine, or skin, any part of the human. your heart can be created. So you don't need to cut a piece of your heart to do so, like a biopsy. And this is, and the blood also could be utilized. And also the patient records is right now evolved. Electronic and AI can group and can utilize all the patient information. And with the outside creation of your heart, with the patient records, this will be opening a floodgates of new drugs, innovative drugs, and also enable the smaller clinical trial concept for heart failure. This same thing that happening for cancer can be done in the heart failure and cardiometabolic area, and I think there will be more drugs will come. Our technology enables the patient enrichment and stratification of the patient populations, and we have a pipeline, and that is how we are helping in the area by utilization of this technology. And our focus currently lead drug is heart failure preserved ejection fraction, which is the most need among the heart failure sector. There is not much innovation happening, limited therapeutic options, and most costly among the heart failure sector for among diseases of heart failure.
And so what has been some of the biggest challenges in scaling and commercializing your solutions, and how have you navigated them?
I think any innovation, you need to go to a timeline, because it's, as I said, we are out there since 2001 with a pioneering and innovation. And when we went to the pharmaceutical companies, they said we are ahead of time. And then later on, competition comes, and then they want to do the same thing. And that time becomes an issue of who is going to get the investment, so that being a pioneer doesn't prevent or shield you from being imitated. I mean, imitating your technology to do the same thing with the money at hand. So you have to make sure that it is a good thing that people follow or imitate, but you also need funding, and you are also having the mission of contributing to heart failure area with your technology that you develop. And what is the biggest challenge is that rather than competing or trying to shy away from competition, focusing on what is the most unmet need. And in our case is the heart failure preserved ejection fraction. It takes dedication, perseverance, not to be fearing away from competition coming and doing the same thing, or they are not even funding you, but they are trying to fund themselves and doing the same thing. And this happens. We wish that it doesn't happen that way. We wish that they collaborate. You're already having the technology, but what we are able to say that there is a huge need for multiple drugs. There will be no one company like cancer field dominating everything, and they have to work with the larger pharmaceutical companies, because the larger pharma have the means and the funding to be able to commercialize it with the multiple countries or larger groups. So in the future, either larger groups will come into different drug approaches and then collaborate as a collaborative groups will do. And there is still a big need. Even though we look into the heart failure area, what was the biggest challenge? Number one challenge, there was very severely underfunded. No matter competition is there or not, they are not putting enough funding to the heart failure area. Even NIH have a big declaration of that severe underfunded. Irony, our tumor is that it is the number one killer. It is right now affecting severely and a large scale population under 45 is younger. You don't want that section of the society to have a heart failure. You don't want anyone to have a heart failure. I lost my father at age 53 at work, so he was a very young man when he died, and it was a heart failure. And this is the reason I think we need to either collaborate rather than competing and taking the people who are innovating down, especially because innovation is in the small companies. Small companies innovate. They bring the technologies, they take the risk to try, they risk to create the prototype, and then it is always easy to take the concept and maybe do or imitate. But more better, I think, for our society to collaborate, to encourage those imitators. They're saying that don't imitate, work with the collaboration with the smaller companies. And instead of, you are trying to compete, try to collaborate for a bigger challenge of heart failure. If this is the biggest challenge, that means more effort needs to be done, more investment needs to be done. And then innovators needs to be supported rather than deterred or saying that, that you are too small to do this big goal. In a collaboration, in people coming together, the best mind coming together, I think, and in good money and investment coming together, heart failure drugs will be available within 5 years. And there's no reason for heart failure drugs not to be available at this time with the technologies at hand. And that is all I can say. It is very challenging if you don't have funding. It is very challenging if you don't have right collaborators, right partners, right strategic partners. It is very challenging people trying to imitate you and trying to cut your ways so that you don't even see the light. And that is why I think innovation has its own challenges. But when you link your passion, why you are doing what you are doing, then you can go for a long run. And I think, and that is what people ignore. That if you have a mission, and if that mission is still as a big unmet need, you cannot just give up, and you have to keep going another day and another day. And that is, I think, the true entrepreneurs and true people who are going after to bring new things and useful things to society will not give up. Maybe there will be a different approaches and different perspective, because this takes a village. You cannot just do. No one can do it by themselves. This type of a task or mission. This cannot be. Nobody can come up with one drug alone, and that is why I think all I can encourage, even our competition, we can work together, they can work together. And I think that way the solutions will come faster and be available and cheaper, faster for the people who need it. And technology is going to enable everything. And if they use rightly, technologies will be a very big enabler of loss of unmet needs and make it cheaper and more effective if the humans in charge decides how to use the technology best.
Well, I appreciate that, and I do agree with what you say about the collaboration, because even in the industry that I work in, and even other industries, I do see where, if more businesses would adopt that approach, we could all do so much more as a society too.
And I think it's not just the sector I work. I see that, and I do see that younger populations are more open to collaborate. Global populations more open to collaborate. Maybe they will bring the changes that is needed in the future, and they don't have fear like some groups had in the past.
I definitely agree. So it'd be very interesting to see kind of what happens as they kind of come up and kind of take the lead, so to speak. So I want to kind of pivot just a little bit. I want to ask you, because I know we've been talking about more of the business side, but kind of getting into the leadership of the business. What is it that you personally enjoy most about leading your organization? Is it the innovation, the partnerships, or seeing the impact on the patient outcomes?
I think that it is a patient-centric, because why every leader have to keep the reason of why they are doing what they are doing at very close sight, like a vision board in a way, because challenges is always there and lacks are always there. But your imagination and why you're doing what you're doing, and you have to remember that there is a loss of talent in everybody. You cannot be the only talented person, only leader. Everyone have its own leadership skill set, and everybody have its own talent. And there are more talented people than even the leader in the organization. And that is why I think the entrepreneurship is difficult, because you have to nourish people around you, and you have to accept their independence and also accept their power and their talents and listen others. And that is sometimes challenging, because we have all egos. We want to say, I know the best, I am the best, you have to create, or you have to follow me. But in this kind of organization, the ideas comes from left place, and ideas comes with when people discuss, and they have a safe environment to discuss, a respected environment to discuss. In the technology field, many people are shy. They don't speak. They are silent people. They're silent but very smart people. And those silent people like the challenges and like to contribute the society's unmet needs, and they feel pride, but they cannot speak about that sometimes. They are invisible people that I consider. And working with those groups and then putting them their work, lifting their work up, and then tying them their smartness to the really specific unmet need is my pleasure, because it is not easy, and it is not like always the most sexy topic everyone wants to fund. You have to work quite a long time, and you have to dedicate yourself. But I think the leadership is a different I call them service leadership and cooperative leadership. Because collaboration, everybody have their own leadership, and you collaborating many equals at the same time. And leading something like this is, I think, the future. Because this will be not the old-fashioned leadership, but it will be a very different, more connected network of ideas will come, and the groups will work for a common goal to make it happen. And that is, I believe, a different future global vision, I think, for the people will be following in entrepreneurship. And I am saying differences underlying. This is an entrepreneurship. This is not a corporate hierarchical structures. They may work with corporations, but the ideas, new things, new solutions will come from smaller organizations that innovates. And they may be working on service larger organizations, that's okay. But to encourage that you have to keep these lights in the society, in the community alive. Otherwise, things turns very dark. There's no new idea coming, and that is all copying and copying. And that is not what we want society to look like.
Okay. Just as we kind of start to get to wrap up, I just have a couple final questions for you. And my next one is, are there any key initiatives or projects you're particularly excited about right now that you think could have a major impact on healthcare delivery or management?
I think the most thing we are excited, smaller clinical trial, enrichment of clinical trials, and capability of AI to make the smaller clinical trials cost effective in heart failure. And this is the largest things you can do, because last decade or two, the clinical trials are very expensive for heart failure and investors are not coming. But if we reverse the trend and do the same clinical trial with 250 patient populations or 300, and many drugs can come, this is almost opposite of last 20 years. And you do this cost effectively, cheaper, and also increase the approval rates of the heart failure drugs and more drugs coming. If this is the number one killer currently, and if it's in the rise, 609% rise under 45 age in United States. We all have to pay attention. We all can be part of this solution, and together I think this will be cost effective much more, because there is a hospitalization rate will go down. So there are technology necessity that in the hospital to work with the clinical trials and also the patient records. There will be many sub-disease areas will come. So AI and technology needs to be utilized in every level, from the corporations to drug developers to the hospitals to the clinical trial management companies and implementers, and how people work on and keep the patient records and how they are going to link with the disease and subcategories will be the future 5 to 10 years. So I see many people will come into this field, and it will be open and it will grow very rapidly like cancer field. So duplicate the cancer in the heart failure area will be the next new occupations will come, especially from the people who knows how to work with the technology and who can improve this field and who can contribute in this field.
All right. Well, thank you.
And one thing when I say that this is regional, or because patient records is ethical concern, so not everybody wants to give their records anonymously. Even Europe, Asia, whose records is access. How to do this ethically and how to not reveal the names of the identity of the people is also big things. This is cybersecurity, also protection of those records and information who is going to access. It's just like a genetic record information that suddenly you think your genetics records are safe and suddenly they are owned by another group. So you have to make sure that the individuals or leaders in charge of the decision making, there are many levels of how that will happen as the technology evolves. This is deeper than it takes in the technology field. So I think we know that, but at the same time I think there are many people working, and awareness of public is also important. You can use things for goodness, you can use things for not many goodness as well. So we need good leaders in charge of many important data.
Well, I appreciate that because I think you read my mind a little bit because I was actually going to ask you a little bit in that area because, obviously with more of the technology driving the healthcare innovation, a lot of organizations are facing challenges with protecting, their sensitive research and patient data. So I'm just more curious, how are you and your organization, how are you currently taking the approach on data security and compliance within your operations?
I think you have to work with the vendors outside that is expert in that. You cannot be expert in everything. You cannot just do internal everything. You work with the outside individuals or vendors, suppliers, and if you're accessing any patient data, the organization who is providing you, they have their own securities and data protection rules and policies. And you don't need a patient's information. In our field, we don't need any information like that. We can work with anonymous groups, anonymous records. But the future, as I said, the most expensive things in the future will be data. And the data and who controls that data and which companies and which layers controlling that data will have the control over everything. And that is why, as I said, in the area of heart failure, we are trying to utilize it for a specific unmet need, but that data can be utilized for anything and anything else. And so I am just saying that I think good technology leadership, practices, policies, and guidance will be very critical for each, how to secure it, how to do the layers, and how to prevent corruption or how to prevent the utilization of the data correctly, and then how to protect that data not to be corrupted somehow, some form, in some layer part, and how to utilize it, and then how to recreate that. It is also important because people always say how to recreate your data. It is, this is in the scientific area. You have a publishment and then they wanted to recreate the data. And if they cannot recreate the data, then it's a questionable information. So it is scientific, but in the hospitals and patient records, it's a bigger question. So you have to work with experts in that field and provider companies, and they have to respect the confidentiality. And this is under the loss of confidentiality rules because they are working with confidential layers. And so you need to know where your data rests and how you can retrieve it in the future. Can you retrieve it free? Or all those questions, is important for technology providers to assure the clients.
Well, Ayla, I want to thank you. It was some very fascinating information, and I do appreciate you taking the time to come on and share with us. I do believe many others will find this valuable, fascinating, and helpful to them.